Today we'll be stepping back into the land of Middle-earth in Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game. I'll admit to being a little nervous. My last foray here was in the Lord of the Rings Gollum, which was easily one of the worst games I've ever played. It left a pretty nasty scar on my soul, and while I don't expect this game to undo all that damage, it would be nice. Off the bat, I know next to nothing about this game. It was recommended to me by a subscriber. I'm a pretty big fan of Tolkien's work and world, so I'm hoping to find a nice home here in the Shire. A brief look at the Steam page shows pretty cozy looking art, a blurb devoid of urgency, and food. Truly, this is a Hobbit's game. I will note the trailer graphics look more akin to a mobile game, and I paid $31.50 for this, so I'm hoping the heart lies less in the graphics and more in everything else. Loading up, we're greeted with a scene of a dock, some hobbit homes, and a spinning water wheel. I like the stonework of the bridge, but the trees make me recall Firewatch. Fine for an indie game, but I expect a little more from a game wielding such a powerful IP. Most importantly, the intro seems to be on an imperfect loop. It's really noticeable if you look at the swan. This loop is about 8 seconds long, which is incredibly short. I get thinking people won't linger on the main menu, but it needs to be longer than that, or a perfect loop. The opening theme doesn't hit that Lord of the Rings feeling for me, not a memory of the Shire, instead feeling closer to a guided meditation backdrop at your local yoga studio. I get the movie soundtrack haunts other media based solely off the books, and I can't expect this to live up to that. In the settings are a variety of languages and the ability to skip the tutorials, which is a good sign that the game is thinking about replayability. There's also an option to auto-progress cooking stations, which seems like it may be an accessibility-minded feature, but I can't say for sure without experiencing the mechanic. Jumping in, we're shown an idyllic meadow, placing us in the Shire at the Third Age. As a lazy hobbit sleeps, a stranger approaches on a wagon, bidding us good evening. The game doesn't seem to be fully voiced, a pretty big letdown. Instead, we're getting grunts and groans in the ear. We move to the Hobbit creation screen where we can shape ourselves. The body section offers different builds and personality types. I wasn't sure why personality was in the body section until I realized it just seems to be the way you physically hold yourself, rather than the way you'll mentally respond to the world. The hair section has 13 options, and all of them look like somebody drew Frodo from memory. There are 10 eyebrows, most a bit messy, which is nicely on theme. We've got 6 hair colors, which feels a bit small. I'm not asking for unnatural colors, but more shades would have been nice. Or hats. I like hats. You can choose your head shape, ears, nose, mouth, nothing interesting. All of the options are very similar feeling. The eyes especially felt very similar, which was a shame. The novelty option is, of course, choosing your foot hair. If you want dainty foot hair, you may, but it is required. I went full bush out. You can dress your hobbit, but you're only given 4 outfits, 2 geared to men and 2 geared to women. It's not locked or anything, so you can wear whatever. Along with a cloak, which is called a cape for some reason, and some glasses, that's all we start out with. The name section lets you choose from Hobbit-approved presets, though you can also choose to write in whatever your heart desires. I chose to use the list, naming our hobbit Porto Chubb. Be kind to him, world. It's his first time living. A stranger unknown to me scolds us a bit for sleeping. He doesn't look great, like he hangs out under a bridge telling teens to light things on fire. He tells us to come along with him, and we do, a rather trusting hobbit. He's taking us to Bywater, to which we were already headed. For conversation, we explain to him that we have no skills at all. Upon arrival, Mystery Mage says he has business and needs to leave, so he's essentially our Uber driver, asking us to leave the car. He's given us a map of Bywater and points us off, winking as he finally tells us his name, a name we couldn't have known. He is Gandalf, and Gandalf means he, and Ohana means family. Glancing at our journal, we can see tracked quests and a section for townsfolk. There's 15 mystery fighters to unlock, but I don't know if that's for this section or the whole game. If it's the whole game, that feels low, though I guess Animal Crossing only has like 10 villagers at a time. Each profile has a section for food cravings and gifts received from meeting those food cravings. The collections show off an index of recipes, ingredients, and miscellaneous stuff, listing who likes what and what season to get it in. This is, of course, the notice that the game has seasons, falling in line with something reaching for Animal Crossing or a farming simulator. It's currently summer, which feels a bit odd. Usually, seasoned games start in spring. There's notably no furniture catalog. Behind our starting point is a bridge blocked by a cow. There's no jumping in this game, which is never a good sign, but there is a weird emote wheel, so we sit, making utter contact. This probably isn't intended gameplay, but there are many kinds of hobbits. There's a pretty long list of emotes you can swap around, but this game isn't multiplayer, so it's just for your own immersion. Sprinting in this game is skipping, which is whimsical and fun, a good choice, though it doesn't seem to be much faster than walking, if faster at all. You can push people around, which is funny. I was able to push a hobbit out of his place and watched as he shook with rage, his pathing unable to resolve because I sat down where he wanted to go. Then I mentally prepared myself to have to walk around every little thing, because again, no jumping. We speak with Orlo Proudfoot, who looks scary to me, like a theater major stung by bees. We tell him we're from Bree, and he remarks he's too hungry to tell us something he needs to tell us. We offer to make him a meal. The house and yard are in disrepair. There's bits of sparkle hanging about, and interacting with them forces us into short cutscenes for dialogue instead of just displaying the dialogue, which makes this game feel very not held together well. Orlo tells us we're taking over Old Ruby's house, another win for the youth. Looking around inside, the low ceiling forces the camera to tighten frequently, which makes me a little nauseous. Forced to feed, I begin making porridge. I'm introduced to the cooking mechanic. It's a bit more involved than, say, Rune Factory. You pick a recipe and ingredients. Each ingredient has its own quality rating and flavor, which affect the meal. You then have to prep some ingredients. For the rhubarb in this case, we do a chopping minigame. The most interesting aspect is the texture graph in the corner. I chop the first rhubarb to max smoothness without realizing the concept. This moves the meal towards smooth on the chart, landing the dish exactly where we want it to be. For the second, I make sure to stop chopping when in between the two elements, so our placement on the chart doesn't move. This nets us a 3-star meal and an Achievo. We feed Orlo, starting a shared meal. We can place the food on the table ourselves, which is not something I would have thought of as a game mechanic. It feels geared toward taking aesthetic photos, and this game does have a camera mode, so it makes sense. You can also place small decor on the table when setting up, allowing you to add bottles or vases for vibes. Orlo fed, he gives me a new recipe and tells me a letter is waiting for me in my mailbox. We've got a letter from Farmer Tom Cotton telling us to meet him at the Green Dragon. Orlo relays random birds will guide us where we want to go, acting as quest pathing. We peep the map, which looks not very big. It's mentioned people keep schedules, but we can find them on the map. We cross town and it's quaint, but again, it looks like a mobile game. At the Green Dragon, I meet with Lily Cotton, Farmer Cotton, and Sandyman. Farmer Cotton and Sandyman have a strong rivalry, competing with one another. Orlo is here too, presumed having come with me. Nora and Fosco appear mid-scene, and the whole conversation is deciding if our new village is a village. Riveting. We're sent off to find an old book given to Old Noakes, who we passed earlier. I'll mention the birds here. Instead of using a glowing line or a compass for pathing, this game uses birds. They fly in, land on certain perches, and point their bodies towards your destination. This is extremely novel to me, and I really do like it. It takes me a second to understand it, but once I get locked into the method, it really is an incredible mechanic. It's baked in beautifully, and I know somebody at the studio must be so proud of this idea, and they're really right to be. Anyway, we ask Noakes about the book, and he teaches us to fish, no doubt a parable in here somewhere. The fishing mechanic is simple. When hooked, reel in while countering the fish's direction. If the line is about to break, slack it by releasing the bud. He relays he gave the book to Farmer Cotton, so we're sent back to the farmer. Already, I'm unhappy. I'm not a big fan on immediate backtrack, especially not this early into the game. Not good tidings. I get this is a quest to introduce mechanics, but come on. Cotton can't even read. Cotton explains gardening to us, though with no demonstration. Plant seed, water seed, get crop. He then kicks our can off to speak with Delphi for the book. We exit the marketplace and head out to the forest where Delphi lives. She teaches us about foraging, the sacred act of picking stuff up off the ground. Before is pilfered, she kicks us down the road to Willow. Willow is the carpenter, and I keep thinking her name is Robin. I wonder why. Again, we get pushed back to Lily Cotton. Lily pushes us to Nora and Fosco, but remarks we'll have to make meals and invite them to eat if they're going to tell us anything. Beaten and bruised and uninformed still, Porto Chubb makes his way to the kitchen. At home, we whip up the 2 meals. The frying pan is introduced, but I didn't notice it until the second meal, so I kind of botched them both. You can use the frying pan to change the tenderness, or the x-axis on our graph. Notably, the frying pan will only move the mark to the right, not the left. You can add seasoning when using the pan, which lets you change an ingredient's flavor. Food prepped, we send a letter of intent from the writing desk, inviting the pair over for a meal the next day. I do some quick seed planting in the boxes outside my door. I have no idea how to end the day, so we redecorate the dining room. There's not a lot of options here when it comes to room customization, but enough that I feel that it was worth doing. I hope more options are unlockable, but given how much we're given here, I think that this is it. Right as I'm about to pass out, I notice the bedroom, which is tucked right by the back exit. I pass out in front of my bed.
I begin to pass out. Then my head hit the wall. Boom!
The next morning, I get a letter from Orlo claiming to have found me passed out and to have delivered me to my bed. This, of course, means Orlo broke into my home late at night, saw me slumped on the floor, and tenderly put me to bed. I am afraid. After watering the garden, I have a meal with Nora and Fosco. It goes well enough, their affection increasing to 2 hearts. Nora gives me the key for the writing desk in my dining room, claiming it's an old fidget toy Ruby gave her, which is immersionally breaking stupid. I open my desk with the key and find the book of rules.
Tung 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 kohon ciao. Mi chiamo Nash Aho 69 ani. Giat.
I bring it over to Orlo as the quest states, who just tells me to bring it to Nora rather than Farmer Cotton, because Farmer Cotton can't read.
What up? I'm Jared, I'm 19, and I never fucking learned how to read.
Nora promises to look it over, so we can know if the village is a village. I stop by Nora's shop looking through clothes. I cop a new outfit. I can't progress the story until I become more of a local, so I go and do side quests, starting with young Tom Cotton. He's lost his cow, so we trek across the Shire to get it. Getting it home just requires a simple gift of 2 veggies, and luckily forageable mushrooms count as veggies because nothing in my garden is ready. I also give 3 vegetables to Farmer Cotton, again just random forageables I found. Back home, I invite young Tom and Delphi over for a meal tomorrow, cook 2 meals, and hit the hay. The day-ending screen shows a nice summary of my day's discoveries and any raised affections. The next morning, I get a chair in the mail from Nora as thanks for the meal yesterday. Each villager seems to have their own furniture set, earned through feeding them. I speak with Lily Cotton, completing the Cook 3 Meals quest, and then with Delphi, completing the Foraging quest. I cap off the rainy morning by hosting 11sies with Delphi and young Tom. According to my journal, this pushes me into Act 2, but I still need to wait for it to actually begin. My guess is tomorrow. I go into town to visit Fosco, who sells decor, but not furniture. He gives me a few pieces, finishing off my quests. Orlo tells me it might be a few days for the quest letter to arrive, so I'm left to my own devices. I meet Neffy, a dwarf and local blacksmith. She has a line of dialogue that's missing a period. That's all I noticed during this interaction, though I appreciate her lore-accurate appearance. I also meet Marigold Potts, the inn owner, who has nothing to say. Hobson Hornblower is our final hobbit, and he actually seems interested in meeting us, if only because he wants to con us into buying garbage. Daisy, Willow's daughter, gives us a riddle, but I neglect it, disinterested. We cook a meal, but we don't have enough ingredients for 2 dishes, so I don't set up a shared meal. The next morning, the quest progresses, a letter summoning me for the village meeting. Delphi also sends a bundle of thoughtful sticks in the mail as thanks for the meal.
Thanks, buddy.
Bosco writes asking me to talk to Delphi for him, wanting a cold remedy. Talk about third partying. At the big meeting, the hobbits gather. Bywater is declared not a village because we don't have any clubs. As I wait to hear about the club formation, I speak with Hobson, who recruits me into Cutco. We get no bites as we try to hawk his fork off on anyone, but in the end, we get to keep it. I take a break to get some fishing done. We follow up on getting herbs to help Delphi to help Fosco, but it makes him worse. The next day, we get a letter from Nora asking us to come help her start the clubs up. I have Neffy and Hobson over for breakfast before heading out to see her. My first crop harvest is ready, netting me potatoes and maize. In town, Nora wants to revive the foraging club. This was spoken about by Delphi earlier, so I'm not surprised. Nora asks us to loop in Daisy, hoping bigger numbers will encourage Delphi to lead the hobbits. Daisy agrees to join, but her mother Willow needs help moving wood before she can join. This really just means bringing her 3 wood. I find some around, though it takes me a moment. Daisy joined up, I meet back up with Nora. Nora warns Delphi might be spooked, but when asked, she instantly says yes, so I don't really know what Nora was talking about. We're tasked with foraging 3 items in a newly unlocked section, which takes all of 5 seconds, and the quest is over. Next, we're to tackle Fishing Club, to be ran by Old Noakes. Marigold mentions food will soften his heart, so I invite him, along with Willow, over for a meal. I didn't realize, but some upgrades are tied to character affection, meaning if I want the other rooms in my house opened, I'm gonna have to start simping for Willow. This pains me because I find her very unpleasant. When I host the meal, the text meal type at location appears, which is obviously placeholder copy that made it into the game. Tummy full, Noakes agrees to start the fishing club. Next is gardening club with Farmer Cotton taking the lead. His daughter Rosie wants to lead it instead, and I'm tasked with growing a 2-star veggie to settle a wager between the two. This can be done with companion gardening or planting 2 crops together. I already have this going by chance, so it shouldn't take as long. I spend the rest of the day fishing and trying to earn money by selling stuff I find. I spent the bulk of the starter cash on clothes, so I lack things like flour, meaning I can't really cook anything. It doesn't take long to forage for money, but it does make me wish Porto Chubb had a car. The next day I got a letter from Noakes, who continues the tradition of sending me a bundle of sticks as thanks. I don't know. I mill around fishing and foraging, but end the day early, out of things to do. The next day I have Willow and Cotton over, trying to get a house extension and a chicken, respectively. I speak with Willow afterwards and she grants my wish, expanding my hobbit hole. That sounds terrible. I spend the day collecting garbage, but don't send an invite out. I just don't have enough relevant ingredients to cook 2 meals. The next morning, I get a letter from Cotton, so we meet up. He gives me a chicken, which I'm required to feed. There's talk about young Tom taking over the farm, but when we say Rosie could take over, Cotton says she can't because she's a girl. This feels weirdly placed, and there's no real reason for this conversation to be happening. It's jarring. I spend some time decorating the new entryway of my house, mostly just the theming. I don't have any decent furniture. I'm really out of quests at this point, and there's nothing for me to do. I can't go to sleep early, the game doesn't let you sleep until evening, unlike Harvest Moon types. Right as evening hits, my 2-star tomato is ready, releasing me from purgatory.
Yeah, buddy.
I take it to Rosie. She uses it to beat her father, but the dialogue is written as if she helped me grow it, which is annoying. She only gives you a tip on companion gardening, but the game also gives you that tip, and it told me before she did. She didn't even give us free seeds or anything. Against my will, we gas her up, and she gets reign of the gardening club. Next is Cooking Club, which requires Lily, who is luckily right there. She asks me to bring a mixing bowl to the dwarf, and I leave it for the next day. The next morning, I get a letter from Orlo asking me to share a meal with Sandyman, which is kind of pathetic, so I ignore it. I eat again with Willow, trying to work towards more home. I bring the mixing bowl to Neffy. She makes us fetch her tongs, which is a 15-second fetch quest, and feels very pointless. It takes her no time to fix, so I'm back at Cotton's farm. Lily says the cooking club is a go and gives me the fixed bowl as a decorative gift. I go to Marigold asking her to open the club boards, but she can't find them. They're literally in her face, just behind some ivy. We're now introduced to the club mechanic. We can take tasks from the board and complete them by returning to the club leader, earning rewards and upgrades. The upgrades range from cooking equipment to better fishing rods to more backpack space to more garden space. Basically, the game has to entice you with rewards that feel more like quality of life than actual rewards. Especially with the gardening space. It's clear unlocking gardening space will open up new paths through the landscape, meaning I can get back to my house from different areas faster. It's annoying these paths are blocked off, and the tracking birds will guide you as if these areas are open, meaning early in the game I'd often walk in the wrong direction believing the birds. Anyway, I complete a few club quests and call it a day. The next morning, I receive a letter from Nora ready to progress the main quest. Before I see her, I host a 5-person breakfast outside of a new location, the 3 Farthingstone, just to switch it up. In town with Nora, Fosco, and Orlo, we learn that we need a wolf's head to hang over the town gate, but nobody knows what one looks like, the beast extinct from the Shire. We ask Noakes, who pushes us off to Marigold, who pushes us off to Cotton. At the Green Dragon, Cotton explains a wolf is a dog, and somehow Fosco is instantly on the case making one to hang over the gate, despite not being there for the conversation. As I wait for the story, I'm tasked with bringing Neffy a meal. For some reason, when given, she embarks on a long bit, acting as if she's never eaten food or heard of it, which is just deeply unfunny and drawn out. I don't really like any of the villagers, but Neffy is the only one I just feel like is terribly botched. The next morning, it's Thursday, with 2 days left in the season. I get a letter from Fosco saying to swing by for more story, and I have Neffy and Lily over for a meal to continue Neffy's side quest. In town, Fosco unleashes his inner furry, creating his fursona. Boomer Sandyman dunks on us, the fursona being too cartoonish and not scary. We offer to get some sticks to add to it, collecting them at the fishing pond. Sticked up, the hobbits hang the head over the gate, using hinges sold by Hobson. This means they break. Everyone accepts this, walking away. I spend the rest of the day running around fishing and foraging, though I see Orlo later trying to fix the ornament. On Friday, I check my mail, summoned again by Forlo. I have breakfast with 4 hobbits before going. While I received the mixing bowl as a gift before, I've only now unlocked using it in the kitchen due to raising my cooking club level. In town, I'm tasked with concepting a village dish, and I talk to young Tom, Willow, and Sandyman respectively. I then report to Lily, who is invisible or clipping for a moment, not sure what's up with that. The dish is created, and I'm asked to host 4 hobbits and serve it. While most of the ingredients are fine, it does require cream, which can only be purchased. While flour can also only be purchased, I've bought it and been given it frequently enough that I just have a reserve. I've never bought cream. Young Tom sells it, but only offers 3 of the 4 I need, so I'm forced to wait for the next day for him to restock. Money in this game is weird. No one ever gives you money. They give you food or furniture or seeds or sticks, but never money. Meaning the only way to get it is by selling stuff, but everything you can sell is used in meals or trading, aside from maybe flowers. It makes for an interesting economy. I never have money because I never sell stuff, because I never know what I'm going to need, because I need everything. Fishing is the safest bet for making money. It's always in the same place, it spawns daily, interchangeable in recipes. Anyway, I had to sell most of my fish reserve to buy cream. On the last morning of summer, I check my mail and receive cream from Lily in the mail. This is the final cream I need, and it's a very nice stroke of RNG. I have Farmer Cotton and Sandyman over for breakfast, earning an achievement. Getting to work, I enter the kitchen. I craft a 4-star Bywater dish, a symbol of my unmatched yokel energy. I follow it up with 3 2-star ones. I send out my invite to Willow, Sandyman, Young Tom, and Nora, awaiting tomorrow. Nothing else to do, I do the 4 friendship events that have been rotting in my journal. Young Tom resents walking in his father's path and now sells more. Nora explains the Cotton Sandyman feud and now sells more. Neffy tells us a dwarf story and we get a new fishing spot. Lily asks if we're hungry and lets us use the Green Dragon table for meals. Nothing crazy. I hit Rosie up as well, pushing the gardening club to level 2. This unlocks a new section of my yard and opens an easier path to my house from the western side of the map, though the best western path is still blocked. This feels pretty late into the game to unlock what very much is a quality of life path, so I'm not thrilled. Out of quests, I turn in early. The next morning, autumn is upon us. I'm warned only fully grown plants will survive the season change, but that new forageables and shop options will appear. The refresh to the landscape is very welcome, the autumn sitting nicely on Bywater. At the Farthing Stone, I host breakfast with the Bywater dish. Everyone likes it, even the grizzly Sandyman. Successful, I wait for an update. I buy some pumpkin seeds, planting them in my garden. Act 3 is now started, become an actual village, but it already shows 100% progress, so I guess I'm just waiting on the game at this point. My house is still in disarray. There's no good furniture, you can't even buy furniture, forced to live off whatever people give you. It makes it hard to embrace the home, and it's more of a place to dump off my ingredients. Pocket space is tight in this game, and while leveling up the foraging club can increase it, you're going to feel that lack of space immediately. Out of things to do as usual, I opt to end the day. The next morning I get a letter from Orlo that the assessor is coming, and I head down to Nora's shop. Assessor arrived, we meet him at the gate. He's quick to scoff at the wolf's head, mistaking it for a hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog. He then explains the rule set that we've been using is outdated, and that in order to be a village, we just need well-kept animals, clean water, and hobbits happy at work. For the animals, I race to Cotton's farm, fixing a fence to keep it tidy for the assessor. He finds it just fine, with no issue. Next is Ruby's pond for clean water. I race over and find old Nook's bathing in it, of course. I have to find his pants and hand them over to him. It takes me much longer than one would think to find these. They blend in well with the rocks. I actually get warped back to the area like 7 times, only for Nook's to be wearing pants already. We pass the clean water section, but I'm accused of being some kind of freak into stealing clothes. Next, Sandyman offers to show his mill. I'm tasked with stopping this, so the assessor will visit the marketplace instead. Orlo and I try to move a cart to block their path, but it's too heavy. I stop them with my body, claiming to have twisted a bone. It doesn't work out, but because of my daring theatrics, Orlo was able to block the path with flour sacks. Sandyman's pissy with us, demanding to know what we're up to. We claim to have fixed the cart's wheel, and while Sandyman rightly refuses this, the assessor is easily fooled, counting it as hobbits happy at work. The trifecta sated, the assessor asks us to meet him at the village entrance. Everyone gathers for the results. The assessor is seemingly about to announce that it is not a village, although I feel this is a misdirection, when the wolf's head falls, knocking him out. They take his body off to the Green Dragon, and it's a similar vibe as when SpongeBob killed the health inspector. Awaiting the next quest, I send an invitation for a meal to Marigold and Daisy, so I can say I've dined with everybody, also including Rosie and Farlow for good measure. I end the day early, out of quest. The next morning, at the Green Dragon, we do our best to keep the assessor in town. Orlo agrees to deliver the assessor's post out of town, and in turn, I agree to take over the post in Bywater for Orlo. I host a quick meal at the Green Dragon, and earned an achievement for dining with everybody, at least once. In Orlo's place, I deliver a package to Neffy, and then to Sandyman. Then we hit up Nook's, followed by Rosie, who got a letter from Samwise's father, a small note of hello scrawled on it from him. Our final letter is to Delphi, who we note isn't around, unusual. And it's true, she's nowhere on the map. This is unfortunate, as I did want to talk to her. I've hit level 2 of Foraging Club. At the Green Dragon, the assessor makes Orlo the town postman as thanks for running his errands, and Orlo's home is now the official post office. The Cottons are quick to rush the assessor back to bed, afraid of him leaving the village before it's declared a village. Delphi's absence is noted again, and our mission is to wait and see where she's at. I do some light cooking and go to bed. In the morn, I have Willow and Marigold over for breakfast, hitting level 6 with Willow. I get a letter about a stranger, and in town, I see a familiar wizard. Gandalf, pretending not to be Gandalf, greets us, and he's looking for Delphi. They've never met, but he knew her mother, and he wants us to find her. He mentions Delphi being the ending of this story, so it seems like we might be at the end of the game. We're sent to the old bridge where we find and follow a flower path. It leads to Delphi's house and then further into the forest. There we find Gandalf, who tells us the flowers are primroses, the name of Delphi's mother. We see her just a bit beyond. Gandalf gives her a pep talk about being in tune with nature. The scene ends, everything back to normal, and my next quest is just to wait. I get my level 2 upgrade from Delphi. It's a lantern for seeing easier at night, though at this point I'm going to bed as soon as possible, out of boredom, so it's useless. I harvest some pumpkins, cook 2 meals for tomorrow, and wait around to sleep. I remember I have this whole other big room off the main entrance, and I realize I have nothing worth putting in it. I put the Cutco fork in the center, calling it a day. In the morning, I get the next upgrade letter from Willow, and I break bread with Daffy and Rosie. I collect the house upgrade from Willow, but I leave exploring it for later. I meet with Lily, who needs a spicy pie for the assessor. I pick up some cream to make the easiest one on my list, but of course, I pick the only pie I can't actually season, and it comes out bitter. Out of flour, I have to walk all the way to Sandyman's and back. I make the Bywater dish this time, spicy and fitting. I delivered the pie to Lily at the Green Dragon. The assessor tries to leave again, and Lily and Sandyman subdue him. Lily is worried about Sandyman's sudden collaboration, as we all are. On a hunch, I visit Willow and find that yes, she does sell furniture, which makes sense. I think I've only spoken to her once while she was in her workshop, so I just never noticed the option. I didn't even realize her workshop doubled as a shop front. I only realized because the last house upgrade had dialogue that implied that she sold furniture. I don't know if this says more about me or the game, but I'm willing to call it a draw. The furniture she sells isn't great, there's only 1 or 2 things I could imagine copping, but the price makes everything not worth it. The next morning, I finally check the expansion. It's off the kitchen. I have no idea what the game expects me to fill these rooms with. How many living rooms am I expected to have? It's not like there's specialty furniture that I've seen. Everything is for living rooms or a bed. I have to cook another meal for Lily, salty this time. I'm getting very bored of this game, and I wish it would finally end. The past 2 hours have felt like a slow death spiral, each mission feeling like the game's last. It seems to take around 20 minutes to go from dawn to the start of evening, so waiting around to go to sleep isn't easy. While I have some friendship missions sitting in my journal, they're all from hobbits I just don't care about, which is any of them. The next morning, I get an achievement for growing 100 crops and receive a salacious letter claiming that Sandyman's plot has been discovered. Intrigued, I meet the gang at the club boards. Sandyman's plan is to become sheriff, it's revealed, a position that would let him set the price of flour. Because he's the only flour seller in town, he'd be able to price gouge the hobbits. I offer to become sheriff, but I am rejected as a foreigner. Lily asks me to make another meal while we decide who will be sheriff. I whip up the required 3-star meal. Meal given, the town gathers as the assessor tries to declare Sandyman sheriff. Lying, the villagers claim Orlo is already the sheriff. The assessor decides to hold a presidential debate and will choose the best sheriff based on the answers the candidates give. On stage, the villagers ask questions. It's pretty ham-fisted. Sandyman is selfish in his answers while Orlo is helpful. This feels very untense, and I don't know why Orlo is being chosen when he's already the postman. I really thought it was going to be Delphi, based on Gandalf's dialogue earlier. Orlo is chosen, surprise, and the people disperse. I clear out the friendship quests in my journal to kill off the day, still waiting for the assessor's official announcement. It's easier to wait for everyone to gather like this to clear out small quests and gifts, rather than running around to each hobbit individually. The next morning, the journal screen tells me I'm in the epilogue, and Nora writes me saying I need to invite her and Orlo for a meal, which means I have to wait around until tomorrow. Bored, I finally solve Daisy's riddle, the one she gave me much earlier in our adventure. I skip around, aimless, waiting for the day to end. I decide to set the meal at Delphi's for the sake, using every venue I have access to. The next morning, I have a meal with Nora and Orlo and Willow. They want me to get Gandalf to come to the festival, so I have to ask Willow for the recipe to his favorite meal. Unfortunately, I was warped during the cutscene, so I have to go and find Willow, even though I was just next to her. The recipe was her great-grandfather's, so she needs to write home for it. She sends us off to Fosco to help with the festival bunting. I hang up the bunting, or what I would call streamers, which makes the area miserable due to the low camera placement. After hanging the decorations up, Willow appears and shares that the meal Gandalf loves most is the exact same meal as the Bywater meal. Not questioning anything anymore, I make a bitter Bywater meal and bring it to Nora. We're ready for the festival, and I wait for it to begin. The next morning it rains as I get a letter that the festival is today. Orlo mentions bringing the pie, but I gave the pie to Nora, so I bake another quickly, just in case. Porto Chubb won't be caught with his pants down. Or with anybody else's pants. Not again. The rain stops as we transition into the festival event. The villagers hang around, and Gandalf thanks us for bringing the food. I'm tasked with speaking with everyone, the small threads of their personalities wrapping up. Farmer Cotton gets complimented by Sandyman, Rosie gets recognized for her ability by her father. Noakes accepts us as part of the village, Marigold makes a move on him. Daisy tells the tale of solving the riddle, but this ends abruptly, probably because I only did one riddle. Nora tells the tale of Noakes bathing before sharing Bilbo's story. Neffy enjoys herself without overly dwarfing it up. Hobson tries to sell us the wolf's head. Lily invites Sandyman for dinner. Wrapped up, I speak with Gandalf. Orlo introduces himself to the wizard, a fanboy. Gandalf makes his leave, but promises a surprise, no doubt fireworks. The assessor arrives and finally makes his announcement. He announces that we are not a part of Hobbiton, the misdirect from earlier, and are our own village. Fireworks play, closing the game's final thread. There's another letter from Orlo the next day as life continues the way it does, and he, Cotton, and I stand atop the ruins near my home. They say that while we're finally a village, only maxing out the clubs will make us the best village. At rest, I leave that adventure for another Hobbit. Our time in Bywater at an end, let's dive into this piece of the Shire. This is a cozy core game, but that doesn't mean it's without expectation. Porto Chubb can walk, skip, and that's about it, jumping very noticeably missing. Many times I found myself backtracking because Porto refused to jump off a small ledge. Skipping doesn't seem to be a replacement for sprint, going about the same speed, but I did it consistently anyway for the illusion of influencing speed. This game itself is slow to start, the player dragged through events that happen around them rather than to them. It's all about the village being declared a village, but as an outsider, this is seen as our bit of acceptance. That never really comes, platitudes aside. The role of beloved hobbit goes to Orlo, and we are left in the shadow. Even Sandyman, the town's Grinch, has more weight than we do, despite moving the plot. This slow story is forcibly spread over days, too little butter over too much bread. The clubs try to elevate this with busy work, but by the time they appear, it's too late. Exploring the club pillars, foraging is as simple as pressing a button. The options change seasonally, though again I only explored summer and autumn. The yield is useful for cooking and selling, but the backpack space will always be your devil. Space can be upgraded, but in my 14 or so hours of playing, I didn't progress far enough to expand my pockets. Fishing is a little more involved, but it isn't much of an experience. Don't get me wrong, the fishing mechanic is better than Stardew Valley, but in a game so empty, it needed a weight it just didn't have. You can only fish in some areas, which is a total shame considering the amount of water on the map. While I'm sure it's easier to develop and offer progression rewards with fishing limited to select spots, it does make Bywater's rivers feel very dead. Gardening is strange in that seeds are placed using the same editor as the home decorator, which is a very unusual choice, one that feels birthed out of a band-aid fix during dev that just was never improved. The watering aspect and seasonal die-off feel in line with other games of this type, and the produce comes in multiple quantities, meaning you can grow better and better of the same. The companion planting is a neat mechanic, one I wouldn't have noticed the absence of, but that does make the experience a little richer. I do like that there's no stamina system. You can water plants all day and forever if you care to. Seeds can only be sown in planter boxes though, and you have to buy those, each costing at least $500, so this deterred me from ever expanding. If you have a large-scale garden, I could easily see it becoming annoying to tend for, the watering can needing to be refilled every third planter box or so. I'll lump the chicken in here too. They're unlocked via friendship with Farmer Cotton or Young Tom, with a max of 4 fowl. You feed it forageables daily, and in return receive an egg. Only, I don't recall any recipes ever using eggs, making them worthless. Worse, you can't set it and forget it, you have to feed it daily. And it attacks you if you don't, even if you did yesterday, meaning it's always angry with you first thing in the morning. I felt like a slave to the chicken, to the point where I tried my best to avoid it, even when I did feed it consistently. The last of our 4 club pillars is cooking, and this seems to be the most fleshed out. There's a good section of ingredients and recipes, each augmented by taste and texture. Combined with the ability to manipulate texture during the cooking process, the result is easily the most impressive mechanic. There are shortcomings. Being locked to owning recipes denies discovery. Each ingredient is locked to specific processing, meaning you may not be able to season as you'd hoped, or it might be impossible to hit a texture goal with available equipment. In my case, this shot me in the foot while trying to make the spicy dish for the assessor. I had the right spices, but I wasn't able to use them. I only got to experience the frying pan and mixing bowl, but it's likely every ingredient is able to be processed by something. It's more if you have the motivation to unlock it. The result of cooking is, of course, eating. Meal sharing in this game is interesting and unique feeling. Not only am I sharing a premeditated meal with friends, but I'm also cooking it, adjusting flavor to specific palates, and setting the table. What's on the table, food placement and decor, as well as where that table even is in the hands of the player, an enticing novelty. Unfortunately, food with friends is only as good as the friends are. The hobbits enjoying the fruit of our labor offer no conversation, merely facial expressions dramatically applied to ugly features. At least if you share a meal in Fire Emblem Three Houses, there's a bit of dialogue. Here it's just empty eyes and full stomachs. Empty minds, too. The people of Bywater have nothing to say to you beyond questing dialogue. If you're not helping them or purchasing things from them, you are simply a burden, cursed to offer nothing but a polite goodbye. At least Nooooooo has the balls to call us an outsider to our face. Everyone else just implies it with their lack of action. No one ever drops by the home unless lured with food. No one invites you to their home. No one ever offers you a meal. You're the friend everybody makes organize the outing, but no one ever calls. Maybe that's for the best. Talking with the hobbits for quests is a chore. To complete any club quest, you have to speak with the club leader, or the completed quest rots in your inventory, taking up space. These are approved by the club leader one at a time, which can get painful if you have more than 2. I quickly learned the rewards just were not worth the time. The main quest, the friendship quests, none of it is worth the time. It amounts to little more than backtracking, idle conversation, miscommunication, and frustration. The map seems small to me at first, but thank God it is that small. The day might be long, but we are slow, and to and fro is the name of the game. There's no fast travel. Having Sandy Man, who lives on the far edge of the map, be the only source of flour is cruel. At least give him a stall in town. It didn't make me align with the plight of the hobbits, understanding the pain of Sandy Man being the only mill in Bywater. It made me dislike the devs for thinking my time was worthless. The rewards for these underwhelming experiences match in kind. If you're not receiving ingredients, you're receiving unwanted furniture or quality of life upgrades held hostage. The furniture in this game is flat, but is so with the understanding that theming is locked to, well, Shire style. Nothing bucks the norm. Everything seems like it would fit in Bilbo's home. While this is natural, it limits variation, meaning everything feels akin to a recolor of something else. For a game that pointedly challenges tradition in Rosie's storyline, it's incredibly rigid in its aesthetics. This isn't to say I want an Animal Crossing solution, with vastly different, often nonsensical sets of furniture and clothing. Just that a foreign trader who stops by with treasures from all over Middle-earth would have done the game a whole lot of good. It's similar to my critique of the hair color options during character creation. I don't need unnatural hair colors like fuchsia, but I'd like more than the stock 6. The whole character creator follows this same pattern. The choice is limited and what's offered is similar. The head shapes, the ears, the eyes. I wouldn't mind as much if the visuals looked good, but again, this is a mobile game in Shire clothing. The hobbit hole and the furniture look nice, banality aside, but the characters are ugly and odd looking. At least Noakes is funny in that crazy old man way. Orlo looks like a Muppet that gains sentience. The lack of romance was very disappointing for me at first. It's one of my favorite parts of these games. I'm a lover boy, sue me. But post game, I'm glad. Every character is a one note cutout. Anyway, here's my official Tales of the Shire character tier list. In F tier, we have Willow. It's obvious they wanted to make her strong and wise, a mentor type, like when she lectures Hobson about his wheels and maintenance, but it just comes across as unfunny, like a censored Red Foreman. Aesthetically, she also feels like they were trying to copy Robin from Stardew Valley, to the point where I had to revise my script halfway through when I realized her name wasn't also Robin. Also in F tier is Neffy. While again, I appreciate her lore accurate appearance, her whole personality is dwarfs be like dwarf noise. In universe, she would be seen as a rude stereotype. Up in D tier is Orlo. He's the sheriff and the postman and the closest thing we have to a friend, and again, his face really creeps me out. Lest we not forget he broke into my home to move me to my bed. I think what really bugs me about him is the game wants him to be seen as like this whimsical underdog that the village celebrates, and none of it feels earned. Everyone talks about how great he is, but he never does anything. C tier is crowded. We've got Daisy, a literal child I never bothered with, Hobson, who trapped me in a pyramid scheme and I thusly forgot about after. We've got Cotton, he's in a feud with Sandyman, he's important to the story, but I really just don't care about him. Bosco, local furry, and Marigold, who seems very nice and normal and completely irrelevant. B tier is much of the same. In low B, we've got Nora, only clearing her brother by virtue of not being a furry. I'm sure if I read more of her dialogue about artifacts or whatever, she'd be in C, but I didn't, so she's safe. Next is Delphi, who at least tries for a character arc, even if it results in nothing. In high B, there's Rosie, who's out to prove herself, but only does so on the back of my labor, and her brother, young Tom, who's having an identity crisis, but is kind enough to not involve me in it. In A tier, we'll start with Lily. She's normal, dependable, warm, but not overbearing, and also seems to vaguely care about the people around her. She's very your mom core. Next is Sandyman, who makes everybody seethe. He's got a psychopathic child he frequently enables, and he hates you and everyone around you. He'd be S tier if his mill wasn't so far away from my house. Last in A tier, we have Old Noakes. He really pissed me off in the beginning, but by virtue of being a crotchety old man, he's more flavorful than everybody else below him on the list. He doesn't know your name, and he doesn't care. He's naked in the river when he's not even naked. It's his Shire, and you're living in it. Of course, this leaves one Hobbit left for S tier, one who rises above the others. This, of course, is Porto Chubb. Yeah, he's a pants thief and overly interested in feet pics, but that's real character. He's gritty. He's placing sticks in his house, putting toenail clippings in the food, and following birds at random. Truly, he is peak Hobbit. He does everything for everyone. He's the driving force behind it all, and much of his time is wasted by the hobbits of Bywater, and so is ours. Cozy gaming, and this is billed towards the cozy crowd almost exclusively, is not equivalent to asking for someone to waste your time. If anything, it's quite the opposite. It's asking to have your time filled with small loving detail, with selective moments akin to sitting in a garden on a lax evening. It's not asking for nothing. It's asking for a master hand to curate an experience. It's asking to be enchanted, the way one might be by a well-curated collection of elements in a museum. This game takes advantage of that label and of the goodwill in Tolkien's name. Again, the music never elevates beyond relaxation time at the yoga studio. While I could see it being used as ambience for a D&D campaign, nothing about it feels specific to the Shire. I'll give the game points for unobtrusive sound, for the most part. The speaking noises are terrible. The strange grunts in place of actual voice dialogue are the worst option. Either speak or leave us in silence. Overall, I would give this game a 3 out of 10. It's a glorified mobile game set at an indie darling price, and there's no proof to back up that pudding. The gameplay is shallow, which isn't a death knell, but it lacks warmth, which absolutely is for the genre. This style of game commodifies nostalgia, emotion, romance, stillness, tenderness, what the kids call soul. You can't have soul if no one in town will talk to you outside of transaction. I think this game falls victim to the double-edged sword of desire. Fans of the genre and of Middle-earth want this game to be easy to love, and the developers want the game to be loved without effort. These are two very different things. Looking at the Steam achievement data, 69% of players earned the easiest achievement, the one for skipping. This is a good baseline to see who played beyond boot up. I can't imagine getting a whole playthrough done without skipping once, though of course it is possible. The achievement for having the ambassador declare Bywater a village sits at 9%. Not great, but I've seen worse with Crash Bandicoot on Xbox, though that was a 3-in-1 collection. Interestingly, unlocking 3 new areas of the Hobbit hole sits at just under 6%, and 3 areas isn't even the final upgrade. I got this achievement, and I still had a section enclosed. So 1 in 3 people who beat the game don't make it to the 3rd upgrade, and it's likely more don't make it to the final upgrade, like myself. This makes me really wonder how people are interacting with this game. Hobbit hole decoration is such a primary function, yet seems to be underused. Clubs are also primary, albeit introduced deep into the story, and their completion sits at 0.2%. Daunting. Under 2% reach maximum friendship with a Hobbit. Again, this is all conjecture based on data, and I'm no analyst, but I would argue these lower rate ones could be achievement hunters skewing the data. A big asterisk here is, of course, that I'm reviewing this game very close to release, about a week out. So it's very likely this data will change, and in what way, I can't say. Usually the data I look at is more solidified, but perhaps it will be interesting to see the ways it changes a year out from now. Likewise, it's possible this game will be updated. New features could be added, bugs fixed, voice acting, non-quest dialogue. Anything is possible. I can't observe the future in a way that is meaningful to this review, so it stands as the game does at the time of writing. So, is it better than Lord of the Rings Gollum? Technically, yes. But I really have to say, at least I love to hate Gollum. At least it had the metal to strip my nerves down and step on them. Tales of the Shire has none of that presence, none of that staying power. Gollum might be worse, but at least it'll be remembered. If this got pulled off Steam in 2 or 5 years when the license expires, I wouldn't be surprised. If I noticed at all, I mean. Hobbits are simple folk, true, but there's more to them than this. They're worth more than a stale story and left-in placeholder text, more than vacant NPCs who walk by, unspeaking and unseeing. After all, I never even got to smoke a pipe. Anyway, come to my house for 11sies. I'll see you next time.